How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another PT Pearl from the Optimal Body Podcast. I'm Dr. Dom.
I'm DocJen.
And we are coming to you from our Clear Light Sauna. Little light show for you. But today we're going to be talking about heat therapy and the benefits of sauna long-term in our life and how it can really have some drastic impact. So stay tuned. What does heat actually do? I think we'd like to start by saying if we're locally putting a heat pack on my shoulder or a heat pack on my knee, what is that heat physiologically doing in that area?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, to that local area, it's not going to do a huge amount, right? That actually creates real change of that tissue that you're putting it on. However, it's going to do, I mean, yes, we do have some physiological changes in terms of really just talking to improving that circulation that's happening right there. We're talking a little bit to the hormonal level of getting down into the cells just a bit. However, we're really promoting this idea of relaxation. And that's why when you put something locally, like a heat pack on something that hurts or a spasm or a pain point that you're having on your body, you might notice that you feel something different afterwards. Maybe a feeling of released pain, of improved motion, of, whatever that may be. And really, I think the mindset should be thinking about it as promoting relaxation.
Totally. And again, we might get through that relaxation, through some local surface level increased blood flow and stuff like that. It could allow our tissues to obtain a little bit further range of motion or get a little more, flexibility in those joints. But again, it's short term. It's not going to be changing the length of that muscle and then it stays longer or anything. It's just through those physiologic things that are going to happen anytime we put heat or anytime we have heat on an area, like vasodilation, especially on the surface level, going to bring a lot more blood to the surface, which is going to bring with it a lot more of those nutrients, metabolites, different things that are just going to be acting in that area because heat brings energy, which brings more activity.
So if you put heat on your back, per se, right? You get some back pain, you get some back spasms, you want to put it on your back. Okay, cool. You have your heat pack at home. But you just promoted a response that allows a relaxation for that moment, right? It didn't fix anything. It didn't change anything. It didn't even cause that much difference to the tissue other than the messages that we're sending for that moment. So what are you going to do beyond that? And that's what's important to get here, right? It can help in the process, but it's not doing the process for you.
Yeah, it can be a tool. As we talk about everything, we're not going to say don't use heat. We're not going to say never use that as a part of your life. But that back pain, the same way as when you're at work and when you're in a work day for 8 hours and you don't have the time to lay down and put heat on your back and find that relaxation by just using that, what other tools are you going to use for yourself? Yeah.
One of the studies did show that if you're using a hot pack for 10 days in a row, if you're immobilized, so this is you're not getting up and walking for whatever reason, you've had to stay in bed and you can't get up, right? So if you're completely immobilized, having a local heat on an area actually was proven after 10 days, it prevented the loss of mitochondrial function so that you can still, revive and use those cells, especially once you do start moving. It increased the heat shock protein levels, which we'll talk into a little bit more as soon as we go into systemic heat. And really, it helped to decrease the atrophy that we're going to have directly at that muscle tissue by 37%. So that's a pretty large number.
And sauna use is just so huge because when we can put our entire body and our entire physiology in a different environment, we're going to have adaptation and our body's going to respond to that. And it's going to say, okay, what's going on here? If we do it once, that's great. But then if we have it as a routine part of how we type these messages into our system using our environment, it can really have drastic impacts on our long-term health.
And we know that we improve actually when we place stress on the system. Like exercise itself is a stressor. That is placing stress on the system. And if you do it for a continual basis, you'll improve a lot of different systems within your body. Being able to have access to create that stress from heat and increase that body temperature, that is creating another stressor in our system.
And just like anything else that stresses our body, a little bit can be good. Once we know our level, we can start playing that.
Yeah.
Too much can always go the other direction, just like anything, just like exercise. Too much exercise can always be deleterious or bad for our bodies versus, saunaing in the right frequency can really, really have a lot of benefits. And personally, I think that one reason this happens is because of what it does to our vessels, and what it allows our heart to experience during that time that we're in the sauna. Because when we're in the heat, our body wants to get rid of heat. And so it starts to vasodilate, or our vessels open up wide, and they're just like, all right, get all this blood to the skin, because then it can help give off some of this heat. And we start sweating, which again, then pulls in the lymphatic system and says, hey, we need you to offload some of these fluids, because that's a really fast way for us to get rid of the heat. So
that's how you can naturally detox.
Totally. It helps us detox different things from our liver, from our bladder, and also just jumpstarts our system and it gets it pumping, right?
Exactly.
And that can be so beneficial when done correctly.
They found that moderate sauna use, as opposed to someone doing it once a week. Okay, so moderate sauna users means 2 to 3 times a week. They are 22% less likely to experience a sudden cardiac death. And then frequent users, so meaning people who are using saunas 4 to 7 times per week, compared to 1 again, are 63, sorry, that number is very important, are 63% less likely to experience a sudden cardiac death, which, when cardiovascular disease is the number 1 killer in the States, that's something to really look at. So it's really just helping your heart to move. I mean, it's going to start pumping when you're in high heat, similar to exercise. Now, this doesn't replace exercise.
No.
You still get to exercise. But this is just another tool to add that different type of stress to the system.
And if I had to guess, I always like to think with my dumb science brain up there, like, if I had to guess,
not studied.
just doing, not a specific study, this is just my conjecture, that doing it consistently in the sauna, I believe, would make your heart more prepared to take on what exercise brings, as far as the cardiac load that is required. Your heart's just like, oh, this is just like in the sauna, but now we're moving all the muscles and joints with it too. Yeah. Right?
You get better endurance.
Absolutely.
From being in a sauna.
And there was even this, I think, is really cool, and I think is almost not a side effect, but a side effect of our heart working so well and our lymphatic system being able to clear toxins a little bit better, is what it does for our nervous system. And it allows us to clear all this gunk, get a bunch of crap out of there. It helps us release all these happy hormones in our body, because we're in the heat, we're in the light, the infrared sauna, it's getting, some good infrared light on our skin, and it reduces the potential for dementia, those frequent users you were talking about, 4 to 7 times by 66%.
That's huge.
66% of people who consistently used their sauna, they were less likely, or I guess they were 66%
Reducing
less likely to have dementia and psychotic disorders as well, was even a little bit higher than that.
7% decrease in psychotic disorders, Alzheimer's, dementia, cardiac disorders. If you know these things specifically run in your family line, it could be something that's just like, okay, maybe this is my extra treat that I'm going to save up for, and in a year I can finally purchase. It's something we're just talking about it because systemically it provides so many benefits, and the research is just kind of astounding as to what benefits.
One of the studies, and we totally have these all written down, so we're not just like pulling these out of our back pocket, but one of the ones that we had looked at was about a single session of like sauna therapy or heat therapy that actually elevated our core temperature above 100, like to 101, I think 101.3. Which is a very
Fahrenheit.
Popular radio station where I'm from. 101.3 KDWB.
Oh my goodness. Fahrenheit. Let's say that.
Yeah, 101.3 Fahrenheit, which again, at Fahrenheit, that's a fever. Your body is technically running a fever at that point, but it was shown to have antidepressant effects, which again tells me that we're popping off some sort of endogenous hormones, or those endorphins that make us all happy. And that had a lasting effect for up to 6 weeks.
That's insane.
One session.
That's really insane to me.
And dry heat, you can go to a lot higher temperatures. You know, this thing, you can set it up to like 175, and the dry heat isn't as hot as if there's all that moisture in the air. So again, I think that we just need to understand, along with the episode we did on cold therapy and some of the benefits of that systemic cold, know that we should be trying to find a way to introduce ourselves to this, whether it's in an actual sauna or in a different environment that allows us to get this systemic heating of our body.
Right. And again, we can continue going on with all the benefits. I mean, growth hormone increases twofold just by 2 30-minute sessions separated by a 30-minute cooling session. But I think the temperature was like at 176, but increased it twofold on your growth factor hormone.
Yeah.
And then if you did 2 15-minute at like 212 Fahrenheit, that's
dry heat again, but
hot,
really hot.
Really hot. But that increased it by 5-fold. Some of the research that we're just kind of pulling off the top that have some crazy numbers, but the fact that there is this research available and it's showing some incredible results. And I know that it's something that we're only going to keep studying more, you know, and understanding, well, how long and what temperature. But ultimately, it's about just stressing your body at whatever level that is, and starting, whether it's, again, like you said, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, you know, what can you do right now that just stresses you just a little bit, makes you a little uncomfortable? Like we all say, growth starts outside of our comfort zone, right? Well, that's not only in like public settings or putting yourself in weird situations, but that's really in how we're treating our bodies, what environments we're putting our body in. Thanks so much for joining us on another episode, another PT Pearl from the Optimal Body Podcast. I hope you learned a ton. You understood the benefits of what we're talking about. If you get yourself a clear light sauna, you know who to mention. Comment below if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the future.